So how exactly does a controversial media figure build such a fiercely loyal online tribe? Well, today, we're going to break down the playbook. We're using just one live stream from Katie Hopkins as our case study. Now look, no matter what you think of her, the methods she uses to create this powerful bond with her audience, they're kind of a masterclass in community building. So let's pull back the curtain and see exactly how it's done.
Right off the bat, the live stream kicks off with this. Now, this is more than just a shocking phrase, right? It's a declaration of independence. She's immediately defining the brand, anti-authority, anti-establishment, and completely uninterested in being polite. This is basically a signal flare to her audience, letting them know they've just walked into a space that plays by its own rules. Or, no rules at all.
So, where does this little rebellion take place? She calls it the Katie's Arms, an online pub. And honestly, it's a brilliant piece of branding. It creates this exclusive but somehow still welcoming little clubhouse. It's supposed to be a break from the real world, and the rules are simple. You don't have to agree, and if you get offended, you know where the door is. This whole setup lays the groundwork for an in-group that's built on this shared rebellious vibe.
Okay, so now that the clubhouse is established, what's the first order of business? You've got to forge some unity. And you know what the quickest way to do that is? You identify a common enemy. And that brings us to the first core technique we're going to look at, a relentless, non-stop attack on the establishment.
And who's the first target in her sights? Well, it's an institution that basically represents tradition itself, the monarchy, and more specifically, King Charles. Her criticism isn't just political. It's framed as this deep cultural betrayal, like he's messing with the very traditions her audience really holds dear.
The language here is so deliberately blunt and, disrespectful. It's designed to show that no institution is sacred, not even the crown. Her whole argument is that Charles is failing because he's not being kingy enough. She says he should either be more royal or just step aside for William and Kate. For an audience that might be feeling a sense of cultural loss or that their traditions are being worn away, this kind of argument is incredibly powerful.
Okay, so from the crown, she shifts focus to another classic anti-establishment target, the national broadcaster, the BBC. And since it's supposed to be impartial, accusing it of bias is a really powerful move. It's painted not just as flawed, but as this manipulative machine that's actively working against the public.
And watch how she does this. She dissects this one single headline to make a much, much bigger point. By calling the question a contrivance, she's not just disagreeing with it. She's basically saying that journalism itself is fake and reframing it as a political weapon. What she's really doing here is teaching her audience a new way to read the news, to see this hidden manipulation everywhere, and that just constantly reinforces their distrust of any mainstream source.
And this final establishment target, it brings the attack from the huge scale of crowns and media empires right down to something we've probably all felt, the frustration of the morning commute. We're talking about the management of the UK's train network. And this is such a powerful move. Sarcasm becomes the weapon here. It frames this decision not just as an inconvenience, but as proof of just staggering incompetence from these out-of-touch elites. This perfectly positions the establishment as this group of people who are actively making life harder for regular folks. And that taps directly into a frustration that almost everyone in our audience has felt at some point.
So after establishing a very clear them, this incompetent establishment, the next crucial step is to define the us. This creates that really powerful us versus them dynamic, which is basically the bedrock of any tribe.
And wow, are the lines drawn clearly. On one side, you have the in-group, her audience. They get praised as perfect and open-minded. They're country people with proper dogs. And then on the other side, the out-groups. And they get painted in these wild caricatures and dismissed with mocking language, from competitive offense buckets to people who own pretend dogs. This really simple binary makes the world seem easy to understand, and it powerfully strengthens the bond of that in-group. But here's the thing. A tribe can't be built on anger alone. At a certain point in the live stream, there's a pivot. The big attacks on institutions, they fade away, and they're replaced by something way more intimate. These highly personal, self-deprecating stories. And this is where the real connection is made.
And nothing shows this better than a story about a trip to the dental hygienist. It's this brilliant little microcosm of her entire worldview. She takes that big anti-authority stance and applies it to a totally mundane, universally relatable annoyance.
First, you've got the nagging app,
Then you get the lecture from the hygienist, and then that familiar feeling of just being patronized. These are all such common everyday frustrations. By making fun of her own kind of childish reaction, she strips away that political persona and just becomes human. She's not some pundit anymore. She's just another person who absolutely hates being told what to do. And that relatability forges a really powerful personal connection.
So where does all this lead? I mean, the attacks on the establishment, creating the in-group, the personal stories, they all funnel into one primary goal: building a community where people feel seen, understood, and maybe most importantly, united.
And this isn't just a vibe. It's built through these really specific, deliberate actions. She shouts out viewers by their location, which makes a huge audience feel individually seen. She validates their lives by calling the stream their date night. She creates this feeling of exclusivity around her live tours and then expresses direct gratitude to her followers. I mean, none of this is by accident. It is methodical, tactical community management.
And this right here, this is the culmination of the entire broadcast. This is the explicit promise. After an hour of shared anger and shared laughter, she delivers the one message that her audience really came for. You are not alone. It's a simple but incredibly powerful declaration of solidarity and belonging.
So this blueprint, creating a common enemy, building a shared reality, and then delivering this powerful sense of belonging, is clearly effective. And it leaves us with a really critical question for our increasingly online world. As traditional communities start to fade, are these digital tribes built on outrage and opposition the new model for connection? And if they are, what does that mean for the rest of us?